Firstly, the major psychological disorder illustrated in the videos is autism spectrum disorder associated with savant syndrome. I had already watched the movie before, therefore I might bring up elements that are not in the videos. The key indications are the fact that Raymond does not have the capacity to establish social relations, either with his nurse who has known him for years or with his brother. He also has a limited vocabulary. He can only make very simple sentences and tirelessly repeats the same words, the same formulas, the same stories, of which he has only a very superficial understanding. For example, there is a sketch he repeats over and over, especially in stressful situations. Raymond also has the habit of watching television at a certain time so as not to miss his favorite show, and the slightest setback risk an anxiety attack. It is an inflexible routine. With the savant syndrome, Raymond is able to excel in some very specific areas. For example, he can count a large number of objects at a glance or perform complex mathematical operations in his head. He simply says he sees the result. He also has an extraordinary memory. On the other hand, he is unable to understand a concrete problem involving a simple calculation. Then I ask myself questions like, how do people develop this mental health issue? What happens in their brain? And how do people with autism can also develop savant syndrome? Leo Kanner describes something called infantile autism, which became a classic in the field of psychiatry. He went against the previous depictions of these children as being feeble-minded retarded. He also went against depictions of these autistic kids as being related to schizophrenia. Cognitive theorists think that autistic people have difficulties with the theory of mind. So the theory of mind is the idea that we can use our own beliefs about what the other person is thinking to try to predict what they might do, what they might feel, how they might react now. Based on the other individual's personality, we can rely on our own theories to develop a basis for what the other person might say, how they might act, and what their intentions might be based on our ability to empathize. Individuals with autism do not have a theory of mind. They have a deficit in social interactions in discourse. They have a very hard time with perspective. Therefore, they might have a difficult time cooperating with other individuals and empathizing with the feelings of others. Autism could be a neurodevelopmental deficit in white matter that possibly autism is a cognitive and neurobiological disorder that has underfunctioning in brain circuitry. Basically, the myelin sheaths are not as strong in particular brain areas, especially areas that are implicated in sensory functioning, and this breakdown can impact cognition. We also see that underfunctioning of brain circuitry in the frontal regions of the left brain, so the prefrontal cortex, especially in Broca's area, which has some implication in language. If there's some underfunctioning, they may have difficulties with their language, and this is especially common in the individuals who have more severe or moderate levels of autism. This video is important to the study of abnormal psychology and to our society for many reasons. Watching them could help mental health professionals and society in general to better understand what it is like to have autism spectrum disorder and savant syndrome. Without watching the videos, they could think that affected people are exaggerating, and they might even think that individuals with savant syndrome are cheating in some ways or tricking people into believing that they are geniuses. Moreover, the videos would help the professionals and the society to understand what a person and his or her family and friends experience when the person experiences autism spectrum disorder and or savant syndrome. By putting themselves in their shoes, they will maybe see things that will change the way of seeing an affected individual, or realizing how difficult and different life is for someone like them. Therefore, they might come up with new ways to help people affected and support them more through the challenges. The videos could also change a professional's perspective on the subject and bring him to revise his methods. Autism spectrum is a disorder that involves impairment in functioning in multiple areas of development, especially in interest and behaviors, social skills, and communication, and it gets confused in the media quite often. It does not always mean that intellectual disability is present. Before, Asperger's disorder was a term that was coined and used by the DSM-4, but they decided to remove this and make autism and Asperger's one disorder. So it's called autism spectrum, which involves some individuals who are low functioning, which might not be able to handle basic activities throughout their lives and may have intellectual disability, but you could have functioning individuals who are quote-unquote Asperger's, who might have some issues with social communication and social skills, but their intellectual functioning and abilities are intact. The experience of this disorder can be different between children and adults. Indeed, autistic children might not respond to their own name by the age of 12 months. Usually, when you have a kid who's not on the spectrum, if you say their name, they turn and they look. But by the age 12, autistic children are kind of appearing in their own bubble and their own world. This might be a problem. If they are not pointing at objects that they're interested in, this could also be indicative. The most important thing is eye contact. Sometimes the kid will have a difficult time showing eye contact, where they might show eye contact too much. It seems a bit strange or abnormal. They might also have delayed speech and language skills. They are unable to answer questions that appear very basic, and oftentimes they tend to obsess over things and they become very rigid in the way that they want to do things.